It's been said before, and I'll say it again. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So where would you rather be than right here and right now on the Ralph Rant? Let's go.
Welcome to the Ralph Rant, your source for hard-hitting Buffalo Bills takes. Now, here's your host of the Ralph Rant, that veteran watcher of generations of Bills teams, the prophet who predicted Josh Allen's greatness, that opinionated so-and-so you've walked out on parties because of, the Ralph.
Yeah, let's turn up that music. How about it? You say 26-7. Welcome to the Ralph Rant. I am your host, the Ralph. Thank you ever so much for being here. And you're probably wondering what's going on with my face here. Well, I'll show you what is going on with my face because I'm going to do my very first, no, probably not first, but an impression of Sean McDermott today. Let's demonstrate. Oh, wow, what's going on? McDermott took off the Gloria Vanderbilt glasses. Can you believe it? McDermott took off the Gloria Vanderbilt glasses. I made mention of it. The Bills have kind of sucked ever since he put the damn things on for the Sunday night game when they hosted the New England Patriots in those shitty rivalry uniforms that have been, by my reports, taken to a dumpster somewhere in Lackawanna on a dark corner and burned. They'll probably be back next year, but not those particular versions. And Taylor Salty is not going to be on the show with me tonight, but she did happen to see because we spent our Thanksgiving in Western New York and then went to the Galleria Mall just miles from the stadium, which we drove by. I've got so much to get to here. But she saw the rivalry uniforms in the store in person, $140, and basically said, they're ugly. But it all started with those glasses and the rivalry uniforms. And now Sean McDermott no longer looks like Gloria Vanderbilt, and the Buffalo Bills look like the Buffalo Bills. So welcome in. The Bills, of course, 26-7 winners over the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Bills look like they started off sleepwalking in this a little bit. I will say the defense was right on top of things early on. And I've got the book of notes here, of course, which we'll get to. But talking about things we liked, number one, getting rid of the glasses. Sean McDermott obviously listens or watches or hears something, and probably because he's become so interested in what the Ralph has to say, that he listened this time and got rid of the glasses. And the Bills look like the Bills, maybe because he couldn't see as well. I don't know. Josh Allen, great in this game, kind of a game manager, didn't do anything great except for a few great things that Josh Allen always does. But a team effort. You got to mention the running game because the Bills amassed 244 rushing yards, which is the most any team has accumulated visiting the Pittsburgh Steelers since 1975. 50 years. So, first of all, before we get too deep into it, thank you very much for joining the show. If you are new to the show and new here, please go ahead and hit subscribe. If you're watching on X, formerly known as Twitter, go ahead and hit that follow button. We seem to be far more popular on YouTube than X, but definitely thank you, everybody, for being here. I know we've got a lot of the regulars in the house already. I'm seeing comments built up. I apologize for not doing a pregame show this weekend. We drove through the snow yesterday, proceeding back to Southeast Michigan from Western New York for a Thanksgiving holiday that was wondrous. And I got to just tell you about Thanksgiving Day very quickly. I got up at 6:30 a.m. The Ralph started cooking. The Ralph had the turkey in the oven with the stuffing, my world-famous stuffing, at 9:05 a.m. I didn't have to make pies because we were out of town at my mother's place on Lake Ontario, but I was entertaining family. They came in. I blew them away with the dinner. Then the lake effect snow hit with furious winds during the dinner. And then after dinner, we were treated to Aunt Dottie's pies and watching the Chiefs lose to the Dallas Cowboys. The only time ever I'll be a Dallas Cowboys fan, but these days, anybody that's playing the Chiefs and the Bills are my two favorite teams. But in any event, the defense was masterful today, and some are going to say, well, this is against a Pittsburgh offense that's been falling off of late, and indeed they have. But I maintain that these are all NFL teams, and the fact is when you get against an NFL team, it's more or less the same for same. I mean, the Bills could have been on against Houston, perhaps if it wasn't in Houston or at the Ralph the other week. And then, maybe Aaron Rodgers goes off. But he's never beat the Bills, I don't believe. The only time he had a chance to, they ripped his Achilles tendon from his leg and were chewing on it last time I saw. But Zach Wilson beat the Bills that night, but Aaron Rodgers has not. But that's another story. The Bills' running game, of course, as we mentioned. And the bigger thing for me was the defense actually starting off great. The Bills, of course, had 2 turnovers in the game. And I've got really quick notes here. But the first turnover, of course, was Josh's interception on the very first drive. Turnover number 1, I list. I hate numbering them, but I'm afraid on the road they appears to be the case. But before that, I've got Cook, a good run. Cook, a nice catch. McDermott, no glasses. And Josh, INT. But then the defense came out and looked great. Then Bills had another punt after they got the ball back quickly from Pittsburgh with a touchback. Then Pittsburgh gets it 3 and out. Bills then 3 and out. Pittsburgh then 3 and out with a short 26-yard punt. And then the Bills are back on the field. Cook with a first down catch, and then Cook fumbles for turnover number 2. And we're thinking, now more of the same. But as we know, these Buffalo Bills consistently don't make changes throughout the week and come out as a different team. What happens is they get into the game and for a short while look like the same team and then make the switch right there and then, which is kind of what we saw. Then Pittsburgh with a 25-yard run to the end zone, not a run, but they were that close after the Cook fumble. They go in and score at 7-0. And then I was kind of surprised. There was the sort of punching bag move by the ball carrier from the Steelers that gave rise to the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. And the Bills accepted the penalty, but had the option of either having Pittsburgh kick from basically not the 15, but the 30-yard line, creating a 48-yard extra point. And McDermott doesn't choose this. He chooses the other way, the safe way, sort of. I would have thought he would have done the other. But, of course, we do have the rule in the NFL that on the ensuing kickoff, after a penalty, a 15-yard penalty against what will be the receiving team, we know that you can kick the ball out of bounds for the automatic 40, but then the penalty is assessed, and they put the Steelers on the 25-yard line. I'd have made him kick the 48-yard. field goal. The Bills have been pretty good on special teams. 48-yard extra point, rather. And then we proceed. Bills get the ball back from Pittsburgh after the kickoff and that touchdown. Cook, a 14-yard first-round play. Josh runs for a first down, and Josh looked pissed after the Pittsburgh player, I don't have the number here, decked Josh Allen after his slide. That was the worst thing you could have done to Josh Allen today. I believe he was just in a mood. This is a guy that just did his number 17 number retirement for Wyoming. And he was talking to some ball players. And I was on Tommy's show over at Mafia Sports Report Saturday night and talked about this then, where Josh actually mentioned during his talk with players there after that ceremony that he loves football, he loves the feeling, and they had just lost to Houston, and he loves the feeling. And I get that. Because football, the primary emotion of football, the primary driving emotion of NFL football is losing. And it's what it's all about. The game is entirely about losing. And our attachment to the team via the losses is what increases our love for them. Believe it or not. And that's the same with Josh. And he indicated that. But then the Bills go out and put out a performance this afternoon versus Pittsburgh in this AFC that really doesn't have any clearly elite ball clubs, and essentially look like a team today that can go win it all. And I think the thing that I think the most about this in the Bills is that when you see the games the Bills have lost, against whom they've lost them, and how close actually some of those games were, it just seems interesting to me that the team can actually change so much from week to week. Perhaps they've been holding off in order to hit that peak at what will be the Super Bowl. Because I'm going to be hopeful. I posited on the Mafia Sports Report show the other night that there is a possibility that these Bills might have to go through hell in order to make it to and win the Super Bowl. They're not going to do it by being the number one seed and playing 2 games at home and going off to the Super Bowl. No, it's not going to be that easy for them. For a team that went through the drought, that lost 4 straight Super Bowls, that has the most championship-starved fan base in the NFL or perhaps in the professional sports world, maybe it has to be about going through hell. Maybe it has to be about the Bills doing what the 2007 New York Giants did when they ended up with a pretty pedestrian record, where a wild card team had to go on the road for the entire bit of it, did not even host a wild card game. You'll recall them beating the Packers in the icy tundra on a Saturday night on their way to then defeating the Patriots and Tom Brady, who had just come off a perfect regular season, 16-0. And we're looking to make it 19-0 for the first perfect season in modern history. And I say that modern from the point the total games in the regular season went from 14 to 16. Of course, the Dolphins being the previous one. But the Dolphins went through and won it all and were actually perfect. But I've got more of my comments here on from what I made of the game, but we had the deck of Josh Allen. There was no flag on that. That was reprehensible Josh Allen had been sliding, and was given a shot, and no flag for unnecessary roughness. Bills were still driving. We had an old-fashioned Josh throw, a bad throw to Dawson Knox, and then Torrance had a false start on the 4th and 3. Dion wasn't in the game. Someone had to play the part of Dion. It was Cybo. Cybo does the false start. It was actually both him and Alec Anderson, it looked like, next to him at right tackle. And how good do those guys do tonight? I mean, this is a good Pittsburgh defensive line. Did we even hear about TJ Watt tonight? No. Alonzo Highsmith was playing tonight rather than not, as might have been expected. Cam Hayward, he got really mad a little bit, and then Dawson Knox steps on his foot there. That was great. Great situation. Pittsburgh receives play number 1. Bosa forces a fumble from Rodgers. Benford picks it up and trots in for the score. Rodgers gets his nose bashed in on that play. Mason Rudolph comes in, and then on an ensuing drive after the kickoff to the Pittsburgh Steelers, there was a low pass that wasn't caught. Epinesa slaps the ball out of the hands. I wanted to strangle Epinesa right there. That gives Pittsburgh a first down. Bills are down 7-3 now after the field goal that they got, not making the 4th and 3 and having the penalty. Then Benford once again with a turnover. Benford turning it on. Rather than going in and hitting Darnell Washington, he waits. The ball is thrown high. And look, yes, Aaron Rodgers doesn't look good. That's not Joe Burrow. That's who the Bills have next week at home. I will be there. We will be broadcasting from the game somehow and somewhere. Keep your eyes on YouTube. We'll be out with some good stuff from there. After that, the Bills got the ball. Good throw to Knox over the middle, which was good to see. Then Cook got a 32-yard run, and Keon Coleman playing this week scores a touchdown on the 4th and goal from the 3. Prater misses the extra point. Now 16-7 Bills. Rodgers is back with a nose injury. And TJ Sanders deflects a pass. That was good to see. TJ getting his arms up. Pittsburgh was 3 and out. Then the Bills were driving. Ray Davis looked very good today. Then Coleman had a drop on a slant route in that next Bills series. He did catch one later. That's what could have been used a lot last week versus Houston when that pass rush was so tough and we didn't have any just quick crossers, quick slant throws that would have beat that pressure. Then I got to the end of my notes there because the rest of the game was just enjoyable. The Bills obviously looked very dominant in the game. Going to get to your comments here. Got 78 in the house now. Great. Thank you very much. I believe, what do we have here? We've got, we can get to it. We've got 55 viewers on X and another 24 on YouTube. Thanks very much for being here. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you're new to the channel, please go and do so. If you're on YouTube, it just takes a nanosecond to hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and like the video also. And indeed, if you're on X, go ahead and follow me on X. And you can get to YouTube very easily from that. But we'll get to some of the comments here. Got a bunch in the house already here. As we know, we glance at every comment as we go through. Place kickers boost 60-plus yarders and still screw up extra points on the PAT. Well, you know, it's a little tighter thing. You know, Prater had to miss. It was very windy there tonight. again, this is why I wonder why McDermott didn't go ahead and opt to have them kick their extra point 48 yards rather than 33. But that was his choice to instead get the ball on the 25-yard line to Pittsburgh on the ensuing kickoff. Guess we can't go through them that way. We got to use the mouse here. Davis was a nice surprise. Absolutely. He did look great. Viper World in the house. You must be referring to Ray and not Gabe. Agree. Yes, I was referring to Ray. Gabe, though, solid. You didn't see him make any mistakes. He did catch a ball tonight, I believe. Tied for third best record in AFC, but some tiebreakers hurt. Let him go in as a 7. It's how it's got to be. It's how it's got to be. And we'll see how this goes. This just makes this next week's game, hosting the Bengals, with Joe Burrow having returned and having trounced what looks like a pretty sorry Ravens team. I mean, there's years past where you'd think, oh, the Bengals just beat the Ravens like that, and now they're coming to Buffalo. I think that says more about the Ravens than it does the Bengals, quite frankly. Welcome to the NFL. Game to game is like night and day. That's actually absolutely correct. Division losses are going to sting, especially the Patriots. They're going to have to go to the Patriots once, of course, coming up here in 2 weeks, and then probably twice. Whatever. Whatevs, as my daughter would say. Whatevs. Bills are going to have to go through this the hard way. Did we ever think it was going to be anything different? Hey, I don't know, but the Pats have Diggs and Holland. Suspect their offense just starts sputtering. Yeah, we'll see. They've got to go play the Giants, of course, tomorrow night. And I don't know. I think Drake May is fallible. I think the Patriots have benefited some from, one thing that doesn't get mentioned, and it bears mentioning. The Bills are playing a first-place schedule. The Patriots are playing a last-place schedule. Because how you are seated, what your final ranking is in your division, determines on those games that are not either playing your own division or the selected division in the NFC. In this case, the NFC South is playing the AFC East. And so that would account for what? 6 division games. You're playing those, your own competition in your division. Then you've got another 4 is 10. But then those remaining games, a number of which are always decided by where you rank in the division. And certainly that's been a lot of the reason why the Buffalo Bills have played the Kansas City Chiefs year in and year out. And apparently they will again next season, again. But that's because the AFC East is playing the AFC West. Patriots quarterback is no slouch. He's an incredible slouch. What are you talking about? Ralph, where you been all week? Yeah. I did the show Friday night with Tommy at Mafia Sports Report. Was going to do a pregame last night. Got very busy during the week. Of course, I was disgusted by what happened in Houston, but had some things we were getting taken care of around here, and then including getting ready to go on a road trip. But I was going to do a pregame last night. We got back too late fighting the snow. So here I am again. Thank you for asking. Paul Chandler's in the house, 249 with the replacement tackles. Let's go, Bills. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that shows the Bills are strong on the offensive line. And frankly, I was surprised. I thought we'd see Tylen Grable in there with his activation, but they activated him because they had to because they'd lost 2 tackles. And so as it ended up, we had Ryan Vandermark over on the left tackle, and then Alec Anderson was in the right tackle position. Getting back to the comments here, Let's go, Patriots, keep winning so we can slap them back to reality. Well, you bet. And essentially here, the Bills are now 8-4. And this is a good win because I believe they need to get themselves to at least 11 wins to assure their spot in the playoffs. And perhaps with the way things are going, I mean, look at how, we've got Kansas City is looking like it might not happen. I don't see them running the table. Although Tommy and I were talking about this on Mafia Sports Report the other night. It's a possibility. It's a possibility that 9-8 or at least 10-7 will get you in. We're talking about 11 wins being a for sure. The Bills are at 8 now. They need 3 more. Well, where can they get those? Well, they can go face a Cleveland Browns team with Shedeur Sanders and host a Jets team at the end of the season. Good possibilities for 2 of those there. And then what do you have left? Well, you've got Cincinnati and the Patriots and Philadelphia. And I think if I got them all, our remaining games, of course, are the Bengals. Well, that's the one I didn't mention. Then the Patriots, then Cleveland, then Philadelphia and the Jets. That's only 6. I'm not thinking of them now. There's one more. But if you could get 2 of them, of these remaining 6, actually it is 5 because they just played this one and they did beat the Steelers. So now you really, truthfully need the 3 more of the remaining 5, and the Browns and the Jets. And then the other 3, of course, are the Bengals, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Patriots. Ralph is my future father-in-law. He just doesn't know it yet. I see. Interesting. I'm going to leave that one because I'm going to have to figure it out. I'm just too excited about the game. Bomber Jack is in the house with us. Steven, somebody figured out my name. I guess it may be time. I've got it. This is the Ralph Rant, but you can comb every single video I've ever made, and I've never referred to myself as Ralph. I am not Ralph. I am the Ralph. But my name is Steve. Now you know. And that was the Who Am I video. Yeah, that's kind of what didn't give birth to the Ralph Rant, but of course that was one of the characters in that Who Am I video. Very good. Jeff, thanks for watching that. And of course, as we remarked the other night on Tommy's show with me, YouTube has changed the handles. So now if your name is not in it, and I've talked to you before and know you but don't recognize the handle, we'll know why. Paul Chandler, my dad said he remembered when OJ ran through the steel curtain for 3-something in 75, and then Cook and the boys put up 249. We cooked them for the most rushing yards in history in their stadium. And I believe we broke our own record because it was Buffalo that did that before to the Steelers. So, yes, absolutely. And, of course, it's a fascinating situation with the energies that run through the league that cross decades. Fume drummers in the house. So with the OCs calling the offense and DCs calling the defense, what does a head coach do? Decide on 4th and short, punt, go for it, clock management? I don't get it. Well, McDermott's running the defense. And I guess there were talks with Joe Brady. The Bills had some interesting stuff today. The one thing I really liked on the 4th down, which they never do, they had Ty Johnson set up as a fullback, and they gave him the ball first, the first man through. And we've seen that successful a lot. Haven't seen the Bills do it at all. Maybe McDermott sat Brady down. No, Joe, I want you to come up with just one creative new play, something original. You mean Cook? No, nothing to do with James Cook, something original. And it looks like it might have worked out. Let it snow. Times 3 next week and a lot for every remaining game. All cold sites. Run the rock. And Joe Zadie, that is a great point because it reminds me of one that I made in talking about the season in one of the early videos of this channel, and that's the fact that the Bills will finish out their schedule in essentially cold weather every game. There are no more indoor games, and there are no more games down south. They're largely in the Northeast. The Bills have made their one and only departure from the Eastern time zone when they went down to Houston. So now you've got that going. And Josh Allen has been referred to as the winter soldier in the past. Let's see what happens. And this was a big win because on top of Kansas City's loss, the Bills just might have a whole different outlook on life if they do arrive at the playoff tournament and Kansas City is curiously absent. Who wasn't happy to see that? What a Thanksgiving topper offer that was. Bills played well today. Wide receivers need more work. O-line, not bad, especially not bad for having the 2 tackles replaced, as we talked about before. And Brandon Cooks was out there with a catch. Not much involved in the offense. Heaven forbid Sean McDermott put somebody new into the game on an extended basis. Never will happen. Never has happened. But he did get a catch today, and he was by himself. Must be another Steve, Jeff. No, not the case. I'm just happy for the McDumbass. Still has to go. He inherited the number 1 defense when he got here. Now we're the worst. Make it make sense. No, they're not the worst defense. That's not accurate. I mean, they've had some trouble adjusting. They've lost a couple of good ball players up front. I think it'd be a whole different story with Ed Oliver and Michael Hoyt in the lineup. But they made it work today. And frankly, in the second half versus Houston, there was a punt, and a field goal, and then maybe there wasn't a turnover, and 3 points. Yeah. So the Bills did well against Houston last week. They did great against Pittsburgh today. And I think you just need to get the feeling of doing that. Quite frankly, if there was a new head coach next year, yeah, I'd give consideration to have McDermott as the D coordinator. Perhaps. I mean, he's done. Our problems haven't been the defense. I mean, people want to jump on the defense. And in terms of inheriting the number 1 defense when he got here, I mean, who was it? I mean, was that from Rex Ryan? And then we had the interim guy for a while that went out to the then San Diego Chargers. Hope we don't piss the bed with the Bungles coming. Well, this will be interesting because what is it? What did Thursday night, the evening contest on Thanksgiving, reveal to us about either the Bengals or the Ravens? I think the Ravens were off, and it looks like they were quitting late, and certainly Lamar Jackson just didn't have his stuff. Jackson, that sounds like how Deion Dawkins would say it. But Lamar did not have his stuff, and I believe it's more about the Ravens than the Bengals. But now the Bills are coming home after a road win in which they recovered from 2 turnovers to start the game, and then got those 2 back, and then won the game handily. One of the most stress-free losses front to back that we've had all season, actually. So we'll see what that means about the Bungles. I like that, by the way. We better beat the brakes off the Pats. Well, we'll see. These will be tests. And now we're going to see what they do this next week. The defense did play well. We're going to keep on going through. Hey, Ralph, epic show opening. Trade Day had some great game today. Needs secondary next week to continue. Burrows and Chase were strong Thursday night. Yeah, I think so, but I think we're also probably going to see Max back. Max, Maxwell Hairston, that is, did not see him on the field today playing. I know he's had the concussion. He was not a healthy scratch. I didn't see, so I don't know what the story was from that. Didn't hear his name mentioned, and indeed, I was doing it different today and listened to the WGR 550 radio broadcast synced up with the YouTube TV view of the game, and I had it right on the number. It was great listening to Chris Brown and Eric Wood. Although, Chris, I'm going to replace you one of these days, and I will be the radio voice of the Buffalo Bills. Anyway, Keon with the touchdown. Go figure. Well, that's what Keon's been good at, and that was kind of like a slot-looking play almost that he was on. And then again, they had him close in to, I don't know if he was at a slot or just a short alignment wideout, but they had a crossing route for him that he dropped the first one, then he caught another one, something they desperately could have used just one of versus Houston. Dennis Maximchuk is in the house. AJ swung at the ball because he wanted to play more on defense, and Benford got an interception from it. Well, that did happen, and that did quell my anger from it, but that was like just selfish and silly, especially because Javon Solomon just did the same damn thing, not last week, but the week before, and tapping the ball out of a Buccaneers player's hands. And that was only a delay of game, I believe, rather than the unsportsmanlike conduct. Although there wasn't a damn bit of difference between the intent and action between the two. Do we need to win out because the next two games are tough and the Browns defense is no joke? They could give us problems like the Texans. They are number 2. Yeah, but I don't think the Browns offense, and I think is together as the Texans, and I just have a feeling the Bills are going to do better. There was some long-standing universal energies working against the Bills. They haven't won at Houston since 2004 or 2003 or something like that. I believe the Bills will play well against the Browns, and I think Buffalo's defense seems to be coming together a little bit now with the remaining people, and it looked good today because I did not see this rash of Bills injuries like we have seen in the past. Joe Brady kept it simple. Even Romo said, same play again and again, right when he was running those two wideouts, and if it's working, get it done. And essentially, the Bills, offensive line imposed its will on that team. And boy, wasn't the game short. I mean, the game was over, I think before 7:15, and it was like a 4:25 or actually 4:27 kickoff. So interesting stuff there. Knox's catching technique is bad. His hands were backward catching that pass that got him from the goal line after the D stance. And compare that to the 3-point body catch by Cook. Brandon Cooks. I mean, yeah, and that's true. And actually, that catch I believe you're talking about, Knox actually almost lost that ball and regained control of it going down. Let's just get Kincaid back. That'll take care of that. Bopper Jack, tough game next week too. Bills sitting 7th. And they're still in the 7th seed, I guess we're confirming. I haven't looked at that yet. But they're firmly in it. The win was very important because Houston did defeat the Colts today. And frankly, I'm surprised that I thought they'd move up one, but of course we had Jacksonville winning, but there were such big changes at the top. Ralph, I want to hear you really rant about that screen to Shakir. At this point in the game, it has to be a fake. Well, yes, I saw it, and it was just a big shake my head. And we don't know what's going to happen. with this staff and with how Brady's doing, maybe something changed. And I don't think it was just the fact that we're dealing with a weaker opponent in the form of the Steelers. Steelers have been a good team, and defensively, they've been very good, and they've given their club a lot of chances in some of the wins. And of course, they did well earlier in the season. Lost now a 4.5 game lead or whatever they had after the Ravens suffered their demoralization versus the Bills, and then the injury to Lamar Jackson, and on it went from there. But yeah, I was shaking my head at that one. I think the Bills, today, they were challenged at first on offense, just trying to get out of their own way, and then it became just a running fest. And impressive, though, with the offensive line substitutions that they had, and also good because they ran a lot because we had new tackles in the game. 300 yards rushing, not bad. Recipe for success. Absolutely. Paul Chandler. Cook wanted the money. He produced Benford. Benford got paid. He needs to do the same. The Bengals to put smackdown on the Ravens. Well, that's true. And quite frankly, the Bengals defense has been playing better of recent. And of course, we had what we all watched it Thanksgiving night, what the Bengals did to the Ravens, and it got away from the Ravens. But I believe that says more about the Ravens than it does the Bengals. And remember, the Buffalo Bills have a score to settle with the Bengals for the 27-10. They get a score to settle with them. Roma did mention how Allen's throw to Shakir was too hard. I had a coworker saying years ago he throws too hard. Well, he does at times. He's had some touch at other times. Patriots are beating tomato cans. Yes. And that's that fourth place schedule we talked about earlier, which is probably why I'm so far behind on the comments. I'm just getting to it now. Like seeing the Bills finally win a road game. And especially after turning it over twice. Because that did happen. And then they just figured out, wake up, guys. We're here. We're in the present. Wake up. And that occurred. And the Bills basically were good in all phases, really, today. And I didn't see any big injuries to any Bills players. It was just something was far more comfortable. It looked far more like the Bills we've come to know and love over these past few seasons. And again, it might just be as simple as the fact that the Bills have to do this the hard way if they're going to do it. And the hard way means being the number 6, number 7 seed, being on the road for the playoffs in their entirety, and then going out to Josh's homeland to win the Super Bowl. Dawkins and Spencer Brown were no-shows last week anyways. Well, this week, playing the part of Deion Dawkins was Osiris Torrance and, of course, Alec Anderson, who false started on a 4th and 3, taking it to a 4th and 8 and forcing the field goal. Actually, it was about a 4th and 2.5. So that's in my notes. We had the hardest schedule for the last 3 seasons. When we get an easy schedule, we choke. Well, quite frankly, part of that is accurate. I mean, the Dolphins, are improving. They played a better game today, I believe. And that was a division game, of course. So the Bills losing that one down there was not good. The Bills losing to the Falcons was reprehensible. And losing to the Patriots, a close game, Again, all the losses have been close except for that to the Dolphins. And then, of course, versus Houston, I mean, Josh Allen gets that ball over the defensive end's hands. I think it may have been Will Anderson Jr. At the end there. Shakir is under it, and he might score right there. And then they have the 4th and 1.5. And if Dawkins doesn't stand up like a Doc, and with the key to the city waiting on his brain, apparently, maybe they get that first down off that 4th down and go in and score. And that becomes a close win rather than a loss. And, of course, we're talking completely differently now. But maybe history has to record the fact that the Bills are going to have to do this the hard way. Winning on the road in the playoffs. Continuing with your comments. Bomberjack, we had the hardest schedule the last 3 seasons. Okay, that was the one we just had. This is what we need. Bills must win the next games, then they make the playoffs for sure. That would be the attitude. Well, listen, the 3 more wins out of their next 5, I believe, gets them in the playoffs. 11 wins get you in the wild card. I don't think the Steelers are that good, and I don't think the Ravens or Chiefs are making the playoffs. Well, the Steelers are not, and they've been having a tough time of late. And we're probably trying to have a get better game against the lowly Bills coming in off of their loss. But the Bills have demonstrated to us that they can come back from 6-6 and win out, which they did 2 seasons ago. I believe this time around that Ravens and Chiefs probably aren't making the playoffs. There's certain teams the Bills are going to do better against. The energies against the Chiefs have obviously been bad. It's historic. The Bills got trounced by the Chiefs, or the Bills would have played the Green Bay Packers in the very first Super Bowl. That was the AFL Championship. In 1965, the first Super Bowl was 66. Referees kept their nose out of this one for the most part. Alex Kemp, that's a good crew. That was pretty good. Although, the no call on Josh getting smacked after he slid was horse shit. Let's be honest about that. And then there was an early holding call that wasn't made when Dorian Williams was held. That was really, really obvious. Why was Cam Hayward, or whatever his name is, so mad? And the D linemen who pushed 3 of them, our linemen, looked like sore losers when they made Josh Allen. Were they mad Josh Allen was making plays? Well, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that they basically were licking their chops having seen what the Houston defense was able to do against the Bills last week. But these are the Bills, and I mean, any given Sunday, it seems like with them, they can suck or be great. And I just think that there's something going on with the team that is making them experience some of these losses to get to the point where it's almost like the hive mind I've talked about before with the Bills, in the sense that the hive mind is like testing the limits and testing the envelope. What about in this mode? Do we win or lose? What's the failure mode if we lose? And then this mode over here, and checking these things. But all the time, still maintaining essential control to get into the playoffs, certainly. Bills control their own destiny to get into the playoffs. And essentially, the division is not out of question. It may seem numerically so, but we'll just have to see. But I believe, aside from all that, the Buffalo Bills are of a mind of testing their limits and getting things figured out and preparing for what they become so good at, which is the end of the season going into the playoffs. and maybe even to the point of now having, as a team, sort of developed the feel as to when that peak needs to get going. We'll see. We'll see. Was this a true road game? Though Pittsburgh is like an hour away. They probably took a bus. It is pretty close, actually. But no, I'm sure they took a flight to get there. It probably took longer to get from the airport to the hotel than it did from Buffalo Niagara International Airport to the Pittsburgh airport, though. I will say that. Fume Drummer, another score to settle against the Bengals is the fact that they killed Hamlin and the game never became official and it affected our playoff seeding. Well, they didn't kill Hamlin because if they'd done that, Hamlin wouldn't be with us any longer. But indeed, that was the case. You can't fault them for that. That was an innocent hit and a shocking situation that basically emptied a lot of the Bills' emotional tank at the end of that season. And it's really no surprise that we had the Bengals come in and really beat Buffalo badly. And, of course, Josh Allen's ex-girlfriend had trashed his house the night before that game, in case you didn't know that. I think her name was Brittany. But that's another story. Falcons lost to the Jets today. And what Paul Chandler is saying with that statement here is that the Falcons, who put, 335 yards on the Bills in the first half of the game down there in the Monday night, lost to the Jets. And I mean, it just kind of tells you some strange things because the Bills' wins and losses, they're 8-4 record right now. If you had to be told back at the beginning of the season that the Bills' record after 12 contests would be 8-4, and you then had to go and identify which games were wins and which were losses, you wouldn't have guessed what these are. That's what tells me that there's something interesting about the Bills and how they are, I don't know, testing the fences like the Raptors in Jurassic Park, I guess, and figuring out what it's going to take to win this all. It's definitely wide open situation still in the NFL. When I see the way our linebackers attacked the run on first couple of plays, I knew we were going to have a good game. Definitely. And, I hope that continues next week. Certainly, the Bengals will try to get Chase Brown going as they did against the Ravens some. And if the Bills have the linebacker sneaked up, that's good. You need to run perhaps a little bit more man in the back end. Having Max Hairston to pair up against Jamar Chase should be a big help if he is back. Hopefully that is the case. Although Trey White has also been playing well, they're getting better in the secondary, and they definitely messed some things up on the Steelers today. But we'll see. Joe Burrow looked good, looked accurate, looked confident versus the Ravens. At the Ravens, this will be a second road game for them, of course, so that perhaps helps, but they will have a rest advantage on the Bills having played on Thanksgiving night rather than tonight, so we'll see. I will be at that game. I will be seated on the more or less the south or east side of the stadium. It's more the south side, the way the stadium is oriented. That's on the Bills side. And row 2 of the club section, I'm going with my very good friend Bruce, who's had season tickets there forever, and this is his last season with him because he lives way out of town. He's been making a big commitment to the games, but didn't want to make the commitment of the PSL, which if you don't live there, who would? I'd love to be a season ticket holder myself. Of course, you wouldn't get the Ralph Rant post-game shows like we do now every week. Did anyone else notice Tomlinson looking exhausted, Noel, compared to how he usually looks intense? This might be his last year. It's tough because this Tomlinson and Aaron Rodgers love affair was happening last season. If you remember the cute smirks they gave each other during the Pittsburgh and New York Jets, I believe, game, or whoever the hell Rodgers was with last year. But the two of them gave looks. There's film on it, and Rodgers was perhaps a real thing that Tomlinson wanted, knowing he had a defense as good as it's been. I mean, he's got a good back end. The defensive line is good. You've got Cam Hayward, TJ Watt. I mean, Alonzo Highsmith is in that back, in the front seven, rather. It was surprising. And I think the Steelers thought they would have a much better game against the Bills today. I think there was also sort of the thing in the Steelers' minds that 2/5 of the Bills' offensive line and perhaps some of the most important positions, the two tackles, were out, and making that a situation where they might be able to feast today. And instead, they allow the most rushing yardage since the Buffalo Bills did that to them in 1975 with O.J. Simpson. So, yes, I noticed that. Next time you're in Cheektowaga, New York, Galleria Mall, and want to meet and maybe jam, let me know. Well, I'm coming this next weekend, and I need to actually get talking about what we're going to do. It'd be cool to have some sort of get-together if there's some guys in town. I don't know if any of you regulars are in the area, but if you mention so, and we're talking about the Galleria, that, of course, is not too very far from the stadiums. I use that in plural, and, of course, we went right by it. I stopped and saw the stadium on our way in the other day. We had to hit a store, and we got off at exit 57 on the 90 coming into town, and I saw that all we had to do is take the Route 20 up to go right by the stadium. We did. Turned down Abbott Road, turned around in the Gorilla Garage equipment parking lot. The Gorilla Garage does a great tailgate. And, of course, those are the guys with Bills Stadium Live, that YouTube channel where you can see 24/7 coverage of them putting the stadium together. Pretty cool if you ever have a chance to look at it. And the stadium should look pretty neat. We're going to be at parking lot 2, right between the two stadiums, essentially, next to Abbott Road and next to the new stadium next week. But, yeah, if you guys are out there, this would be the time. And we're going to have another show, of course, during the week this week. So let's see, and nothing official, but it'd be cool to get some live stuff with some of you guys on hand for the ball game, or beforehand, some sort of get-together, somebody name the place, and we can do that maybe on Saturday evening prior to that 1 o'clock game. And, of course, that was 4:25, but the NFL changed that because apparently Fox wanted to have Bears and Packers, and rightly so, for their 4:25 featured game. And so Bengals-Bills has been moved to 1 p.m. I'm personally kind of glad of it because I think the Bills will be better in that 1 o'clock slot versus the Bengals. Don't ask me why. Where did Brandon Picks go after the nice 20-yard reception? Also, where is Groot? Well, Groot was out there. He actually had a nice play, and we're just not seeing the pass rush type of performance from Groot. We did see it from Bosa today, and that's going to be a thing next week. I mean, what kind of pressure can you get on Burrow? That'll be important. Against Aaron Rodgers, who they busted up his nose pretty good today, but Joey Bosa did look a lot better, having gotten rid of the Q-tip a couple of weeks ago and looking pretty good now. So, and then as far as Cooks goes, yeah, I don't know if it's a business of McDermott doesn't want to put people in that early, get them confused, especially when the game turned out to be in hand and running and time of possession would win it for the Bills. Probably thought better, well, we just signed McCole Hardman and he got hurt his first game out. Let's take it easy with Cooks and give him some more background on what's going on here at one Bills drive prior to throwing him out there, and they may need him next week. So I'm glad they will have him. Let's see. Let's get through to some of these. I think Tomlin had a cold or a flu. He looked out of it. Yeah, well, that's perhaps so. Head coaching job is like the president. Look at Mike McDaniels. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Turns of gray and old. Them dudes are stressing. Yes, they are. Yeah, but the crowd was booing. You usually don't have the Pittsburgh crowd doing that. I think the fans are done with him. And you're talking about Tomlinson, of course. And, there's great history, but and this is something I mentioned the other night when I guested on the Mafia Sports Report. Of all the things people in the league can think about in replacing coaches, and we were kind of railing on McDermott a little bit, so we were talking in that sense. But any owner has to take a look around this league and see how first-year head coaches are doing. Vrabel with the Patriots at 10-2. I mean, you got Brian Schottenheimer, who beat the two Super Bowl entrants from last season 4 days apart. And, of course, the Ralph identified this first with a tweet the day before Thanksgiving, identifying the fact that the Cowboys were playing both Super Bowl contestants from last season in consecutive weeks, which apparently hasn't happened since 2016 with Atlanta, and certainly never 4 days apart, such as it was. But they beat both the Eagles, who look like they're going to hell in a handbasket, with their system quarterback, Jalen Hurts. And it's getting late in the season. The defense is starting to get things figured out, including the Bills. So, and that makes me think that the Bills could also have a good game against Philadelphia. The Bills, to me, can actually, they probably won't. Maybe things will go wrong against Cincinnati, but win out. I think they could win out. We just really don't know as much as we can ever. So let's get back to your comments here. Juice GME is in the house. Congrats on the win. I don't know what our game plan was. Well, it's difficult to say. It was really windy there, so that was going to make a difference. And I think the Bills selected to have the wind in the fourth quarter, which they subsequently really didn't need because they were running the ball. And I don't know if today was so much a game plan, but maybe the ability to pivot off of a game plan so that we went ahead and had some adjustments made to what was actually going on the field. Meaning, because whereas versus Houston, I mean, when they're throwing, Brady's running mesh all night, two receivers crossing. Those routes take time to develop. They've got to cross first, and you've got to see who might come open. And then we saw a couple of throws today to Keon Coleman, which are just quick slants, which take no time at all. And you needed that last week, and that never happened. Also, Brady never changed the blocking surface from the 5-man. There was no extra protections for Josh. No extra protections, and throwing routes that take longer to develop against the best pass rush in the league, probably. And then Brady has the temerity to say in his presser on Monday, oh, maybe we should have made some changes. Are you shitting me? But nonetheless, it was adapted today, and the Bills controlled well, and Josh, when he needed to get away, could get away. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe this is just about how the season is going to actually just be hell, like we're talking about. Again, if you're new to the channel, it only takes a nanosecond to go ahead and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, and go ahead and follow me on X if you wish. This is the Ralph Rant. Several shows per week. We'll be coming back with a couple of shows this week, and then I will probably not have a pregame except for a live pregame from the parking lot at the Ralph on Sunday morning. We will be there early. We're going to have live time for a while and talk with some different people. And again, if you're going to be around there, let me know. Let's arrange. Definitely love to meet up. Benford single-handedly won us today's game. Give him a raise. Well, they did, and he earned it today. Thank you very much. That was a great situation with Bosa forcing that fumble. Joey Bosa has been the great pickup, and Ogunjobi even had a great game today. It's still the crime of the fucking century that Michael Hoyt is not on this team. That bothers me as much as it did when it happened. Woke is joke. The only thing missing tonight is your daughter's take on the game, and instead she is rehearsing a 4-person musical that has to debut in right after the middle of December. So she saw the first half of the game, apparently didn't see the other. I was giving her some updates. She will be very pleased to know the result. Dominic Orsini is in the house. Hopefully next week, Kincaid and Palmer are going to play. We'll need them in a shootout with Joey B. Well, indeed. And we'll see if this defense can sort of repeat what it did today. I think we have to say to some extent that the secondary and the back seven, really, as it were, are kind of coming together. And I think from the fact that we didn't hear as many names called today, but there was problems, except for the one drive where Steelers were moving the ball down well. I think it was their second drive of the second half or something of that nature. I don't have it in my notes right in front of me. But with the exception of that drive, which ended up in a 4th down turnover on downs back to the Bills, the Buffalo handled it pretty well. And we'll just have to see. I mean, we've got an assortment of receivers for the Bengals. Chase Brown's been playing well. We'll have to look at it, but the Bills could definitely use to get some of those weapons back, and hopefully they do. Hopefully they do. So at any rate, keep your comments coming in here. I think we've gotten through a lot of them here. Obviously, when the Bills win, things aren't as raging on the comments as they normally might be. But we've got a couple more questions coming in. Norm, the Bills fan, is in here. Was Hairston out today? He was not listed on the inactives list today. He may have been available. He may have cleared the protocol to be able to dress, although they didn't want to put him on the field if they didn't have to. He did practice in a limited fashion earlier this week, which would lead you to believe that perhaps he has cleared the protocol. Here's a question, Ralph. Is your heart happy tonight? Mine is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm doing great tonight. It was a outstanding Thanksgiving, a great topper to the weekend where any time the Chiefs lose and we wait for it, but watch that bottom lip of Patrick Mahomes curl out a little bit like he needs his binky. That's a good weekend. And with the Bills pulling this off today versus the Steelers, and interestingly, a lot of the picks, it was funny, the Bills were favored by 3.5. Every single expert pick on CBSSports.com/NFL, every single one of them showed that the Bills would win in laying the points. We have to lock in the defense. Looked different. Yes, it did look different. There was an emphasis on preventing the run. Guys were triggering. That loss to Houston in a lot of different ways had a huge effect on us as fans. I think you would agree. And so what I have to say is that that had to have that big of an effect or bigger on the Bills club itself. They listen to all this noise. They hear what's going on. Sean McDermott had gotten called Mick Glasses, one too many times and left the damn things in the locker room or at home. I don't know how he was able to put them on to begin with, because starting to wear glasses in the middle of the season, and somebody asked him about it, and honest to God, in the press conference, he didn't say, well, I've been a contact lens wearer the whole time, but my eyes are a little bit dry, so I'm wearing the actual spectacles now. And that would have been, oh, okay, I see. But no, he says, I've been trying not to do it for the longest time, but now it's finally to the point where I can't see. So he puts on glasses and then tells us that he hasn't been able to see that well and has been wearing them ever since in this stretch of football that started with the loss to the Patriots and culminated with the loss to the Houston Texans. And so he ditches the damn things and doesn't have them on tonight, and the Bills come out and dominate, essentially. I don't know. I made my point about it at the beginning of the show, and if you didn't see it, you'll just have to rewind and check it out. Hope you had a better Thanksgiving than I did. Thank God I own a toilet snake. Enough said. Oh, my Lord. Well, you know what? I had the same such of a plumbing disaster last night that befell a member of the household, and it was not their fault at all, but I got in there and I attempted to deal with the problem with one of those plastic plungers, and then actually a 6 or 8 whatever foot snake did nothing, and I was horrified. I went this morning to Tractor Supply and procured a proper rubber-ended plunger with a proper nozzle. And guys, I'm here to tell you, don't screw around with the plastic ones. This thing took care of it in just a couple of quick, whatever that is you do with a plunger when you get in there. Enough of that, but I feel for you, Fume Drummer, on that business, that plumbing business. It looked like Coach has the kicker on a short leash. I could see a change before the playoffs if he misses any extra points. Well, I don't know if he's on a short leash or not. I mean, he that one he missed, it was just a slight pull. It just got outside the crossbar. Almost sounded like it doinked the goalpost on the way by. I wouldn't worry about Prater. Welcome to Buffalo, Brandon Cooks. I know just one target, but he's going to be a difference maker behind the scenes. You know, and I agree with that completely, because you had to see the interviews of him, and not just of him joining the Bills, but previous to that. To me, he comes in with a far stronger attitude than even Amari Cooper came into the Bills with last season, if you recall. Amari was kind of like standoffish and quiet almost a little bit, it seemed to me. Brandon Cooks comes in and, like, you know, it's all about me making myself mold to what my quarterback needs. And I think that gives Josh Allen a far better sense of mind. The one thing Josh Allen really needs out of this offense, other than what he has, in order to ensure its success as we go through this season, is the ability to make a layup. The ability to have a guy there. The guy's always going to be there. It was Cole Beasley for a long time. Hell, it was Jamison Crowder before that. If you recall, Jamison Crowder was his slot receiver. I think it was after Cole, actually. And that was when the Bills went to the Los Angeles Rams for the season opener. This is the year that Von Miller was signed. Von came out and was a terror. Bills won that game 38 to something, 38 to 10 or 20, something like that. But I think the difference with Brandon Cooks coming in is going to be a great change of mind and basically mental complexion for Josh Allen to give him that. And I think we're going to see quite a bit of that, because he is very good at getting open, finding soft spots in zones, and creating separation. I loved what he said about receivers, that, you know, there should be no no excuse for an NFL receiver not to be able to get separation. Patrick Hughes, Steelers brutalized by Bills 26-7. And it's funny you should say that, because when I was on the show the other night, Friday night, I believe it was, with Mafia Sports Report, and we were talking about predictions, I think Tommy's prediction was 27-24 Bills. My prediction was 34-26 Bills. Well, it was the Bills that got to the 26, and I'll be happy if the Bills' opponents can stay at 7 the remainder of this season. If the playoffs started today, we would go to Denver. They have a good defense, or what are your thoughts, sir? Buffalo's got Denver's number. As much as Houston has had the Bills' number, I mean, and this has gone way back. I mean, the Bills beat the John Elway Denver Broncos back in the Super Bowl years. In one of those, it may have been the divisional game prior to hosting the Raiders for 51-3 on the way to the first Super Bowl. But I believe they beat the Broncos 10-7. And of course, the Bills had the one screw up there a couple of years ago with too many men on the field for a good field goal, and ended up missing it and losing to them. But then the Bills have handled them. I believe Buffalo would do fine against Denver. With the running game you have, with the type of running game the Bills have, you got a good zone scheme that allows a cutback situation by somebody like James Cook, who can move through that quickly. That's kind of a weapon, sort of like Josh having this layup open guy all the time, sort of the Cole Beasley guy I mentioned. And with that, the Bills are going to be tough to stop running the ball like they did. And this defense was not bad at stopping the run. We're going to go into that Bills state of mind where we're going to convince ourselves by morning that the Pittsburgh Steelers weren't worth a shit. And that's why Buffalo was so successful. I want to get the Ralph merchandise shirt. What sizes? What prices? Colts have major injuries and will continue to lose 3 of their last 5. Bills will make the playoffs. Go Bills. And in terms of the Ralph shirts, yes, we are working on that very much, hopefully to have that happening and have them available within a few weeks, I will say, not to put hopes up too long. And speaking of too long, we're going to have the proper sizes. I can never get shirts that are long enough, so there'll be extra talls and there'll be larges. We're gonna accommodate here. Price, I have no clue. But no shirt is too small, no price is too large. Nah, I don't mean that. Colts have major injuries, yes. And the prediction that the Colts would founder here late in the season. I mean, Daniel Jones has got a fractured fibula, which, of course, is the smaller of the 2 bones in one's lower leg. And apparently it didn't look like it had impact on him. But the Colts just got done playing 2 desperate and pretty good teams. They gave the game away at the end to the desperate Kansas City Chiefs the other week. And then, of course, Houston kind of handles them today, and the Colts have some problems. They got to get over a maturity thing because they were good earlier, and now they're figuring out there's still more season and playoffs coming. But thanks, Jeff, very much for that comment. Dennis is back with, can we recognize how Josh is now the leader in career rushing touchdowns and passing Cam Newton? What a beast that touchdown run was. So cool. Getting stopped by the 3, but the refs let it play out rugby style. Absolutely. And the Bills offensive line, got there pretty quick. The cavalry was there to move him ahead. If there's just an instantaneous stop and forward progression and they get it moving again, then it's good. And the refs did allow it to play out. And they probably owed Josh one for not calling that personal foul on the guy that hit him after Josh was clearly down and having slid. I mean, his butt and elbow around the ground. He's done sliding and he gets whacked and there's no flag. Could not believe it. What year did we beat the snot of the Chiefs in the playoffs 56-10? Might have been the Raiders. the only 56-10 I remember was a Sunday night where that's what the Brady Patriots did to the J.P. Lossman Buffalo Bills. 51-3 was the result of the AFC Championship game that took the Bills to their first Super Bowl versus the New York Giants. And like I mentioned earlier, that was the week after, I believe, that they had beaten the Denver Broncos 10-7. So if that's the one you're talking about, and that would have been 1991 by that time. It was the 1990 season Bills that made the Super Bowl, and it was 1991 by the time those playoff games were going on. I need that exact patch on your beanie as on a long sleeve tee. Make it happen, Ralph, please and thank you. Well, I will attempt to do that. This is actually off of a hat that did not fit me any longer, and it's sewn on kind of crooked. I always got to straighten the hat a little bit, but yeah, we'll have to get some of this stuff going. I appreciate you guys having interest in this stuff. You know, I don't even have the channel monetized yet to try to make any money from it, but I need to probably do that because I'm past the number of subscribers that are required. The Colts are coming down fast, that's for sure. Jeff, possibly your last time at the Ralph Stadium. Is there a memory special in your heart to share with us? Tailgating, hot dogs. There's been some good tailgates there. I remember some very cold games. I went to see the Bills play Houston Oilers at that time on Christmas Eve day, and I remember hot chocolate actually freezing right on a coat onto which it was spilled. That was pretty good. Of course, there was the first ever game at Rich Stadium when the Bills hosted the New York Jets and defeated them. This was Joe Ferguson, I believe, and was it Ferguson? No, it couldn't have been Ferguson then. It might have been Dennis Shaw, but O.J. Simpson was on the team, and the Bills won that 9-7. That was the opener, and that was the first time having walked into that stadium, which the existing Ralph is interesting because it's dug out of the ground mostly, and so the building, other than the upper decks on either side and the lights, is not that imposing. And when you walk in and see that field for the first time in the inside, it's really cool. So that was a good one. But I suppose one of my best memories about the Ralph didn't even start there. I was playing high school football, last game of the season. We won. I recovered a fumble as a defensive tackle, just fell on the ball to take possession, which won us the game. Got hit a lot in that game. It was a good ball game. Came out of the showers. My father's there waiting for me and goes, "Well, I guess you're pretty tired, beat up, right?" Said, "Yeah." Said, "So you're probably too tired to go to the Monday night game tonight." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And of course, he had 2 tickets for the Bills' first Monday night contest ever at the Ralph, Rich Stadium at that time, October 29th, 1973. And we went to that ball game, and it was a beautiful October night. The Bills won 23-14. O.J. Simpson went past 1,000 yards on his way to 2003, that being the 7th out of the 14-game season. Remember Bills linebacker Dave Washington fractured his humerus, hitting a guy, sort of clotheslining him, so to speak. And that was a great contest. Were you living in the Buffalo market when the Bills sucked year after year? The radio postgame show took phone calls, and the drunk fans were fun as fuck to listen to. Made me laugh. Yeah, that is pretty good. And no, I actually have not lived in the Western New York area for a really long time. So I was actually down in South Florida for 17 years, and those were during the Bills' rise to being the Super Bowl years, and even prior to that. Another great memory down in the stadium, formerly known as Joe Robbie, and that would be in Miami Gardens, Florida. Bills at Dolphins. Bills are down. End of the game, 4th quarter. They're driving. They get close. It's a 4th and goal from about the 4-yard line. Kelly takes the snap and dives across. That's 1989. and the Bills win that game. That was a huge memory there. But I've been to a number of games at the Ralph over the years, and this one coming up next week, and perhaps we're going to see if it's possible. It might be a fun one. It might be an important one, actually, when they close the stadium's life with the Jets. And at this point, that might be the last game, because if the Bills remain in their current wild card spot, they will not be hosting a playoff game. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. Hope fans rush the field and tear down the goalposts. Used to love it when they did that. And they did that certainly, I think, when the Bills went to the Super Bowl the first year. But I know it was done when in 1980, the Bills, in the first time in 20 tries, or 21 tries as it were, defeated the Miami Dolphins in the season opener. The Bills went 0-20 for the entire 70s against the Dolphins and won that opener, and the fans did take the goalpost down. Woke's joke, your analysis is 1,000% better than the local radio host who I won't mention, but I'll just say thank you. Yeah, I know the guys you're talking about. They Debbie Downers to me, and really don't like some of the takes some of them had over the years. And I will say this, that it used to be a thing at WGR where on 4 o'clock Mondays that the head coach would come on and have a chat with the hosts. And we know who the afternoon hosts are. And I believe they might have been doing the post game tonight. And that went on for years. And then Sean McDermott, I think I remember the show, but Sean McDermott got really kind of disgusted with them and some of the things they were indicating. And that ended that relationship, and it turned it into Sean McDermott coming on the radio station. I believe it's Fridays with Sal Capaccio. So, yeah, I know the ones you're talking about, and you're not alone. Sean McDermott doesn't like them either, those particular ones. But thank you very much for the comment. I played D-end in high school for only 1 year. Led the league in sacks. Would have been cool to be on the same team. Defense is where it's at. Oh, yes, I'm a defensive guy for sure. I love defense, and I love the aggression and the hostility and the twitchiness. And we kind of saw that from the Bills today. So it was very, very good to see. So how are we doing here? We've got 71 watching on X and another 25 on our YouTube channel. Again, if you're new in the house, I want to see a couple numbers up. I don't bug you with stuff. I don't hit you with a lot of posts. I just come on and give you this kind of content. Hit the subscribe button and go ahead and share, and share alike. I want to get the show out in front of as many people as we can. We are past 1,000 subscribers, as we hope to be before the end of the season. Let's get way past it as we go along here. And so just to recap here, the Bills are doing great now, and we've got, of course, now the rest of the season to look at. With Patriots and Giants tomorrow night, and Jackson Dart will be playing quarterback for the Giants. This could be interesting. We talk about these energies, like I've mentioned before. Aaron Rodgers has never beaten the Buffalo Bills, I don't believe. Bills have never won in Houston since the early part of the century. And the Giants have the Patriots number quite a bit of the time. This ought to be interesting tomorrow night. These energies definitely occur. Woke's joke is here. Everyone hit the like button and share. Ralph is the real deal. I thank you ever so much for being here. And we're going to go ahead and cut it off. We got it to about an hour and a half. A little bit ahead now on the Sunday night game, which we can dive into, and I can blast through commercials since I've built up all this time waiting. And again, I have to say today it worked out really well. Once again, I listened to the WGR live radio broadcast with Chris Brown and Eric Wood right over the top of, and I will have to go back and watch the game listening to the comments of Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. Romo, I mean, he got to me the other night kissing up to Kansas City so much, maybe because he didn't want to appear a favoritism to Dallas, for whom he played in the past. But the guy's got to stop sounding like he just raided Jerry Jones' cigar humidor and pulled out like the nasty Havanas because he's talking like this the whole game. Clear your throat, man. For God's sake, clear your throat. But thank you very much, Woke is Joke. Please like, subscribe, and rate. Let's go, Buffalo. Our defense can keep up that type of energy and stay healthy. We have a chance. Not big, but that's all you need is a chance. I think they just need to get excited at the right time of the season and just go through and blast through it. It's one of the more interesting seasons we've had. But I want to thank every one of you for being here for the post-game show. We're going to leave it at about 93, 94 minutes right now. It's Sunday night. I know you've got other football to get to, other coverage to get to, and I have to go listen to what Sean McDermott has to say about tonight, what Josh Allen has to say. But I believe we saw the Bills responding again from a loss, and I think things are starting to get together a little bit. We did not see the situation where the turnovers turned them into turtles tonight at all, and problems ensued. No, I think we saw them get the turnovers and recover from them, which I'm almost happy to see. And it was a good prove it to yourselves games, Buffalo Bills. So with that, we're going to end it. I appreciate very much you being here, if we could ever find the mouse here to talk about this. But as always, thank you very much. Be good, do good, God bless, and go Bills. I am the Ralph, and this is the Ralph Rant. Out. We'll see you in a couple of days with another show.